Welcome to the show. So Bernie Sanders finally bit the bullet this week and endorsed Hillary Clinton after having been booed by House Democrat for his delay. Henry, why do you think he waited so long to officially concede?
Well, I don't think he has finished business. I think he still wants to have his platform influence the Democratic stage coming up for the convention. I think he wants to have some input. I'm not sure how much they're going to allow it, but I think that's one of the things that he's trying to do. I think that's probably what's been going on behind closed doors.
So, Brian, one of the concerns about Hillary Clinton, or one of the comments that is made by many, is that she is somewhat of a chameleon. Do you think she'll pick up any of Bernie's policies, and do you think she should?
Well, the Democratic Party's already endorsed the $15 minimum wage that Bernie Sanders has been championing. They've also picked up on the platform the climate change platform also. So I think Bernie's supporters, most of them are going to flock to the Democratic Party in November, and without them, I don't see how Hillary can win the election, quite honestly.
Do you think that the Democratic supporters, because I've heard a mixed bag here. I've heard, yes, I agree with you. There are some of the things like the $15 an hour minimum wage. The free college thing I don't think is going to go anywhere with Hillary. And I've heard from some that they think, some smarter than I, that they think that some of these Bernie supporters are going to go to Trump because he is the outsider. And even though Bernie was in public service, he was still considered an outsider.
Well, you know, I don't know how a true fervent Bernie supporter can go to an establishment Hillary Rodham Clinton. I'm just baffled by that. You know, to me, Bernie was really far left of the Democratic base that would have been 8 years ago. And now we're looking at today, and he seems more moderate. That's only because the party's moved further left. But I think, and I would feel if I was a Bernie supporter, I would be disenfranchised to have him go back and support Hillary Clinton because of what he stood for. And now we're going through, and he's, oh yes, don't vote for Hillary a month ago, and now today, I'm giving my full support to Hillary. I have to, I know he has to do it because of politics, but if I was a supporter, I would really be concerned what direction the Democratic Party is going, and if I'm going to show up to vote, or if I'm going to support Hillary Clinton.
So, you know, the thing that we seem to have lost in the Bernie Sanders piece is the democratic socialist thing, the whole socialist context around his standings. Brian, what does that mean? How did that manifest itself?
The Democratic Party is not a socialist party, but there are socialists in it. There's no doubt. You know, I think Bernie speaks to the emotions of the Democratic Party. Hillary speaks to the brains of the Democratic Party, the establishment. We can only do so much in power. We can't go too far left or right of the political middle. And Bernie has thrown that consensus, I think, out the window because, like Henry mentioned, a lot of supporters might have a hard time voting for Hillary Clinton, Bernie supporters. That's
Now, see, I don't know whether they will just not show up or if they're going to throw their support behind Trump because he is the, quote, outsider.
I just can't see many Bernie supporters voting for Donald Trump.
Okay, here's the other question. Do Bernie supporters vote for Gary Johnson?
The Libertarians are an attractive option for many people from what I've been reading about.
Well, and I read a poll,
also.
I read a poll, probably the same poll you read, where while Gary Johnson is still only polling at 10%, he seems to be taking more people from the Hillary side than from the Donald Trump side. So I wonder what impact, if any, that will play in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Libertarian Party has aspects that Democrats can like and Republicans can like. Many Democrats favor the legalization of marijuana. Libertarians want that. The flat tax on the right, the Libertarians favor that also. So there's it's a grab bag of issues that a lot of them might be attracted to.
Now, what do you think about Donald Trump making some pandering efforts for Bernie supporters? Because he's done that recently. He's reached out.
The one thing that both sides can agree on, Bernie supporters and Trump supporters, is free trade and the disaster that's brought about in the Midwest, also in the South as well. That could be somewhat of a uniting issue, but I don't think it'll be enough to bring them all over onto the Trump side.
So my argument has been, and in the last 7 years, we have had lower GDP growth than any time ever in our history. It's less than 3%. My argument is that regardless of who becomes president, the change of leadership is going to be a catalyst for businesses to start investing, because we hear reports all the time that large businesses are sitting on all these huge sums of cash that they're just not making investments with. What do you guys think?
Well, if we change our tax structure and we make it attractive for businesses to bring money back into this country instead of storing it overseas, I think you could see some explosion in the development and manufacturing in the U.S. Not necessarily the Trump approach where he's looking to, raise taxes against imports for countries that have high tax exchange. It just doesn't work that way. If we're trying to get products moving in, trying to reinvigorate our economy and our jobs, we need to have lower taxes, and we need to encourage businesses to repatriate their funds in order to spend them on our local soil.
I think I read somewhere, it's been about a year ago, there's $21 trillion of U.S. tax money abroad,
Right.
in tax havens, other places where the Treasury can't get to them. I believe Congressman Delaney has a plan for repatriation. They can take some of that money back with a very little of a tax on that to get it back into the country and invest it. So maybe something the next Congress could maybe spur
Donald
that.
Trump has a plan for that too. I don't know whether it matches Delaney's or not. Where are you on Trump? What do you like? What do you don't like?
I mean, the free trade part is appealing to me because it really has damaged. I mean, look at manufacturing in this country in the last 30 years. And trade agreements from both parties, from the Republicans to the Democrats, it's really, look at the jobs that have went overseas. It's hard to get that back. It maybe won't be able to come back. So I think that's an aspect where I somewhat agree with them.
What about on the wall?
On the the border?
Yeah.
I think it's ludicrous. It's not going to happen. I mean, yes, you can have enforcement on the border. You can have, more border patrols. You can have better surveillance of the border. But building a physical, however tall wall, it's not going to deter people that want to get away from poverty in Central and South America to get into this country.
So how do you fix the immigration problem?
I think you got to have a way for legalization of the people that are here now, that have been here a long time and have been living here. Maybe they have a job here. They have children who are U.S. citizens here. You have to have a solution for them first. And then the people that come in later that are caught, they've got to go through the steps and process as well. And if they're here without any ties, they have to be most likely sent back to where they came from.
And what about the criminals?
Well, that's also another issue that that's a tough one to answer, and that's why Trump's going to have a lot of problems. I think if he does attain office, how's he going to match his rhetoric with action?
Yeah. Well, and that's, Henry, isn't it true that politicians make promises, politicians lie? We know that.
I think with Trump, I'm not sure if the wall is really going to be brick and mortar as much as it's going to be, I think he's going to have to ease from that position because, one, the economics of building that wall and our federal budget don't exactly
He says he's
work
going
well.
to get the Mexicans to pay
Well,
for it.
we can say we can get the Mexicans to pay for it, but there's a challenge there. We have the challenge of those who are in the country illegally that are taking jobs away from potentially American citizens who currently are either completely out of work and not collecting unemployment benefits, have completely abandoned the workforce. So he has a challenge of, well, I'm going to deport 13 million people. That's not exactly possible either. I think there's going to be a realization. I think he's going to, after he wins the election, that there's going to be a challenge presented to him on how we're going to live up to what we say. But he's also a negotiator. And that's what made him successful in business. He's found ways to make compromises and reach across with people who have different opinions. And I think he's going to wind up brokering this. He's not going to deliver what he says. Okay? He's not exactly H.W. Bush. It says, read my lips, no new taxes. But I think he's going to come through and he's going to wind up have to back out of some of his positions in order to get things to work in Congress.
So the email scandal, is that put to bed finally?
I think it pretty much has to be. I mean, the Attorney General today is pretty much not said there's going to be any more comment on it. The FBI director has closed it down. Unless something else
How does
comes out.
that impact Hillary? I
don't
mean,
think-
because I watched part of the Comey when Trey Gowdy was interviewing, questioning
Right.
Director Comey, and there were questions like, she said she had one device. Is that true? Well, no, she had multiple devices.
Right.
She said she never sent emails that had that were marked confidential, marked classified. Is that true? Well, no, there were at least 3 that weren't. And all these questions, there was a series of 10 questions, and in every case, the answer was she said the wrong thing. Now, what we know, though, is that she didn't lie to the FBI. She may have lied to the public, but she didn't
Right.
lie to the FBI. Nobody's going to hold her accountable for that. I realize the Justice Department isn't, but you're saying the voters aren't?
I think the voters have already have their opinion of Hillary Clinton. I don't think it's going to change much. If you weren't going to vote for her to begin with, you're not going to change your mind.
I disagree with you some. I think we're going to lose. I think she's going to lose maybe 5% support. There are people who are going to say, I'm going to vote Democratic regardless. And she's going to have those. But the trust issue, I think, is going to play, and how the Republican Congress handles her perjury before Congress, handles the fact that she released classified emails to her attorneys who didn't have the necessary security clearance. I think all those are going to play in, and whether we actually have people smart enough in Congress or Republicans are smart enough in Congress to play this all the way through to November, that's going to be.
Well, the Congress will be taking a month off here shortly, so I'm not sure they're really serious about doing anything.
Well, that's true, too. And I'm going to give you the last word on that one. Next up on the flip side, our panel will weigh in on the future of Washington County. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Stay tuned.